This program deals with themes of an adult nature and is intended for a mature audience.
The KTPF Community Talk Show is sponsored by Cregenhos Castle, South Wales, one of the most haunted castles in Wales. For more information on ghostly and ghastly events, including fright nights, all-night investigations and hen parties, visit www.mosthauntedcastle.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
They've landed.
You're in the right place. Online, on the web, and on air. All over the world.
Talk Radio.
You hear us, we hear you.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the KTPF Community Talk Show, recommended by Paranormal magazine, the UK's leading online publication. My name is Suzanne.
And I'm Steve.
And we are here keeping the paranormal friendly each and every day, but especially on a Sunday on www.ktpf.co.uk. For those of you who don't know, Steve and I started this back in 2007 and trying to bring the paranormal world together, and after last week's show, I'm not sure about it. We've been trying to bring a chat room to you with a difference, engaging in live friendly discussions with special guests. And we've been doing it now on the radio on the talk show for nearly 3 years now. 2.5 years we've been doing it, haven't we, Steve?
We have indeed.
So I don't know if you're there in the chat room. Well, you're not many in the chat room, but if you want to come in and listen, God, that's a good picture. Quite nice and bright as well.
Makes a change.
I don't know.
New light bulb.
New light bulb must be it. Yeah. So, as I say, we do cover a variety of topics and encourage them and you to share information, advice, and most importantly, friendship. Remember, collaboration, not competition. Okay, so we mainly concentrate on the investigating side, but we do like to cover all sorts of subjects that do come under the banner of paranormal. So we like to bring stuff to you. And don't forget, if you have any questions, you can use the live interactive chat room where we will ask your questions to our guest, or you can call in and ask them yourself. Our caller tonight is actually on the phone.
Yes, so please don't try calling in.
Yes.
Yes.
So, but you can use
Skype us
on ktpf.paranormal show. Later on, we will have the rundown of this month's events news from paranormaleventsview.com. And don't forget that after the show, we do have our radio replay on the YouTube channel. And once again, we'd like to say hello to Robert Bray and Chris Mack, who we know listens in to us after the...
They do. They're our regular replay listeners.
Yes. So what we're going to do is... I'm going to tell you a bit about this first.
Yeah, if there's any more regular listeners out there, let us know.
Yes, definitely. Now, what's on tonight's show? Well, in August 1977, single parents Peggy Hodgson called police to her rented home in Enfield after 2 of her 4 children claimed that furniture was moving and knocking sounds were heard on walls. The children included Margaret, age 13, Janet, age 11, Johnny, age 10, and Billy, age 7. Later claims included allegedly demonic voices, loud noises, thrown rocks and toys, overturned chairs, and levitation of the children. A police officer, or rather a police woman, even signed an affidavit to say that she had seen the chair move. There was more than 30 witnesses to the strange incidents. Desperate for an explanation about what could be taken place in their home, the family turned to the Society of Psychical, if that's the right word, research, a respective scientific body that examines cases of alleged hauntings from any academic perspective. It sent 2 investigators, Lyon Playfair and Maurice Gross, to examine the evidence. Reports of further incidents in the house attracted considerable press attention, and the story was covered in British newspapers such as the Daily Mail and Daily Mirror until reports came to an end in 1979. The Enfield ghost is one of those cases in the paranormal that has always fascinated me. But what is the truth about the case? I'm hoping Guy, in talking about the Enfield case, can give me a little insight into poltergeist, including some details from a new study which used some recordings from the Enfield case. But until then, we're going to hand you over to Steve with the observations.
Well, thank you. But, we'll say a quick good evening to Dave Lloyd and Ace Paradox, who've joined us in the chat room.
Hi.
There's
quite a few out there, but they're not in the chat room just as yet. Okay, do you want to kick off?
There's your first link.
Right. Okay.
Where'd it go?
Off you go.
1 second. I see it seems to have closed down for some reason.
What does?
Why did it close down?
Have you lost your pages?
There it is. It wasn't coming up.
All right.
German scientists prove there is life after death. There you go, guys. We can all stop. Been proved. A team of psychologists and medical doctors associated with the here we go, Technische Universität of Berlin have announced this morning that they have proven by clinical experiments the existence of some form of life after death. The astonishing announcement is based on the conclusions of a study using a new type of medically supervised near-death experience that allow patients to be clinically dead for almost 20 minutes before being brought back to life. That seems a long time, doesn't it? 20 minutes. This controversial process was repeated on 944 volunteers that over the last 4 years necessitates a complex mixture of drugs including, here we go, I'm going to get caught on these, I'm sure I am, epinephrine and dimethyltryptamine, see, nearly got there, destined to allow the body to survive the state of clinical death and reanimation process without damage. The body of the son put into a temporary comatic state by a mixture of other drugs which had to be filtered by ozone from his blood during the reanimation process 18 minutes later. The extremely long duration of the experience was only recently made possible by the development of new cardiopulmonary resuscitation (CPR) machine called the Autopulse. This type of equipment has already been used over the last few years to reanimate people who had been dead for somewhere between 40 minutes and an hour. Blimey. Surely that would damage the brain being out that long. A team of scientists led by Dr. Barthold Ackermann has monitored the operation and have compiled the testaments of the subjects. Although there are some slight variations from one individual to another, all the subjects have some memories of their period of clinical death, and a vast majority of them describe a very similar sensation. The common memories include a feeling of detachment from the body, feelings of levitation, total serenity, security, warmth, the experience of absolute dissolution, and the presence of an overwhelming light. The scientists say they are well aware many of their conclusions could shock a lot of people, like the fact that the religious belief of the various subjects seem to have held no incidence at all on the sensations they experienced as they described at the end of their experiment. Indeed, the volunteers counted in their ranks some members of a variety of Christian churches, Muslims, Jews, Hindus and atheists. I know our results could disturb the belief of many people, says Ackermann, but in a way we have just answered one of the greatest questions in the history of mankind, so I hope these people will be able to forgive us. Yes, there is life after death, and it looks like this applies to everyone. It was reported this week. I nearly went into another one then.
It was reported this week, was it?
Yes, it was. There's no link for this one. It was reported this week that stimulating the brain with an electromagnetic pulse can improve memory. It was only a short study of 16 people,
but the results look good. If this can be repeated over a larger study, it will also, but this will also improve someone's psychic abilities, as it has also been reported that magnets, more specifically the north pole of a magnet being held over the third eye, opens you up to other realms. So what do you guys think? If it works for the memory, it'd be really good, especially if it can work on Alzheimer patients and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. But it has been said that magnets can open up the third eye properly.
What we got next?
We are going to an actress.
An actress.
An actress.
Okay.
Just put the link in for everybody.
Don't forget, guys, if you do lose us, please refresh and we'll do the same.
There we go.
It's all down to live stream.
There's the link. Connie Britton lived in a haunted house. The Nashville star was staying in New Orleans earlier this summer while on location for a movie project. While she loved staying there, she says there were some freaky goings on at the house she was living in. It's freaky haunted, Connie told the US edition of Esquire about the Deep South. We rented a beautiful house where we were beautiful in a great, really cool neighborhood, and it was definitely haunted. I just kept thinking, oh, that's the wind, or that's the house settling. But one night my son woke up screaming in the middle of the night and then jumped out of his crib, which he never does. And when I walked him back to put him back to the bed, he was like, "Get those little boys out of here." I did not sleep for the rest of the night. So there you go, she's there.
What we got next? I hope you're going to get done before 8:30.
Witches and watery graves.
Mm.
There we go.
Okay.
That's where we go. Believe it or not, witches and watery graves, future worlds are part of the top 10 of travel creepy destinations.
Oh, yeah.
From ghostly apparitions of a French girl in a white dress to scuba diving the ruins of the world's largest ship graveyard, travellers have been long drawn to the creepy destinations. Famous for the ghost sightings, past horrors, or unexplained mysteries, tourist operators report that these spooky spots are becoming increasingly popular, with Australian travellers. Travel company Adventure World, which specialises in exotic and unique locations, has revealed its list of top 10 creepiest destinations, from the famous witches of Salem to the lost Incan city where virgins were said to be sacrificed to the sun god. And here's 5 of them. If you want to see the rest, you have to follow the link. Church Lagoon is the world's largest ship graveyard after the area served as Japan's main South Pacific base in World War II. Number 2 would be Salem in the USA, which is synonymous with witchcraft. 3 is the Terracotta Army. The figures were buried 2,000 years ago. 4 is the mouth of truth in Rome. The face where you put your hand in.
Yeah, you put your hand in, yeah.
And then someone goes, "Oh!" and it makes you jump. And 5, the Lady of Lourdes in France. As I said, you can check out the link to see what the other 5 are. There we go. Now this, I haven't put a link on it because it's just one letter, an answer. This is from a newspaper. A letter to Dear Annie.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Son 5 claims he has paranormal experiences. Dear Annie, my 5-year-old son has been claiming to see the paranormal. I'm sure part of it is just imagination, but sometimes he describes in great detail people and even pets who have died. He mainly claims to see a cousin he never met. But when he can describe accurately, sometimes he will sit up in bed and start talking to the wall, saying he is talking to his cousin. Now he says he can see someone else. He isn't sure who it is, but it frightens him. My son won't even walk past the bedroom door without me or another adult with him and the bedroom light on. We don't let him watch scary movies or anything like that. Is it possible that he's really seeing these things? I've mentioned it to a few different ministers who just laughed it off and said there was no such thing as the paranormal, any advice would be appreciated. A fan of your work. Okay. Now, moving on. Anyway, I went too far down. It jumped. Okay, dear fan. The fact that your son doesn't watch scary movies does not mean he hasn't been exposed to the ads for them or comments from friends. Nonetheless, our concern is not that your son is making it up. Sometimes manifestations of the paranormal can be indicated of a medical problem. Please take him to his doctor for a complete checkup, including a neurological exam. And we wonder why our gifts get ignored or lost.
Yes, definitely.
And you got advice like that coming through.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not, apart from getting him medically checked and stuff like that, you could have advised that you see somebody of a spiritual nature as well. But it's just like, no, paranormal don't exist. Stupid people.
Is that it?
No.
One more.
One day in 1922, near Broken Hill, southern Rhodesia in Zimbabwe, a skull was found. When it came to the attention of the British Museum, the curators were pleased. And then just going to stick that in there so you can be pleased as well. There we go. They were pleased. In fact, in the Neanderthal skull and bones did not exactly come as 10 of the penny, but the Broken Hill skull was special for other reasons. On the left-hand side of the cranium was a small, perfectly round hole. At first it was assumed it had been made by a spear or other sharp implement, but further investigations proved that this had not been the case. When the skull was struck by a relatively low-velocity project, like an arrow or a spear, it produced what are known as radial cracks or striations, that the minute hairline fractures running from the place where the impact. There was no radial fractures on the Neanderthal skull. It was unanimously concluded that the projectile must have had a far greater velocity than an arrow or a spear. But what? Another mystery was that the right side of the cranium had, in the words of one anthropologist, been blown away. Further research also proved that the right side of the cranium had been blown away from the inside. In short, whatever had hit the Broken Hill Neanderthal on the left side of his head had passed through it with such force that it had caused the right side to explode. Researcher Reen Norbergen, who investigated the mystery in his excellent book Secrets of the Lost Races, commented, this same feature is seen in modern victims of head wounds received from shots from a high-powered rifle. Norbergen's comments were more appropriate for forensics experts who have studied the skull in Berlin, have since concluded that the cranial damage to the Rhodesian man's skull could not have been caused by anything but a bullet. Compounding the mystery further is the fact that the skull is of an ancient Urux, an extinct type of bison was found in Russia by the Lyn River. It also had been shot in the head thousands of years previously, but had survived for some time as the bullet hole had calcified. Now these are artifacts that were gone dead and buried a long time before the gun was ever invented. So how did a Neanderthal man get shot in the head? Did we have time travellers?
Maybe.
Oh, there you go. That's me done.
That's you done, is it?
That's me done. See, all done before 8:30.
Oh, good.
What do you think, guys? Small stone using the catapult. Possible, but would it have gone through the brain and damaged the other side of the skull, so like a bullet going through?
This is it.
It probably could have done going in, but I'm not sure it would have done the same amount of damage the other side. I think it would have stopped before it.
Okay.
Did the damage on the other side.
Just like to say thank you to everyone out there that's wishing me a happy birthday. Merry New Year, says Dave and Liz. Happy birthday, Sue, says Manky Hypno Man. Yes, happy 40th birthday, Sue. Hope you had a wonderful day. I did, actually. Me and Steve are now first aiders for our team. And
Yes.
we went out last night and had a tapas. Not a tapas, a tapas. So, yes.
I thought you were going to say Tipex then for a minute.
And funny enough, you should say 40th birthday, Viscount, because somebody said that I didn't look my age, and I looked at it if I was in my early 40s. And somebody said that...
That was so nice of her.
It was so nice of her, wasn't it? So... But
and she wasn't trying to sell her anything because she'd already bought it.
yes, apparently the 50s are the new 40.
That's what they say.
So, so that's what they say. 50 is the new 40. But I don't feel 50.
That makes me 43 then.
Yes, definitely. So, was she drunk at the time? No, she was working in a shop because I spent all my money today that I got for my birthday. So.
Yeah. And Dave, Liz, you just said you're never 2 years older than them. So, but yes, I was 50 yesterday. So that makes me 50 now, I suppose. Before we go on today, do you want to get that? Have you got time to get that little update in?
Yes, I was for those of you who remember last week's show. I don't know whether you've seen it on the replay. If you didn't catch the live show, I've been talking to somebody today who's going to be on Rip Off Britain, which the Rip Off Britain is going to start back at 9:15 on the 15th of September, every morning by the looks of it. And one of the episodes, not the first 3 according to BBC, but one of the episodes are going to be discussing the Compass Paranormal saga, about basically what happened on the Colditz trip. And I was talking to this girl today, and she's got loads of screenshots and everything, and she said that she was actually recorded back in June before they'd got all the updates on what was happening and everything. But apparently, if you remember Danny Teague's interview, she mentioned that they never stayed at Colditz. They were 9 miles away in an old hostel. That's where they ended up sleeping. Do you remember that part of the interview? Well, it's come to light now that the Bowens actually slept at Colditz.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They managed to sleep there. So
yeah, they obviously booked them.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I'm still annoyed at it. I'm still disgusted with it all, I'll be honest with you. And if you haven't listened to it, it's on the radio replay from last week. Yeah, knowing full well about what I did know before the show, I was annoyed and felt sorry for them.
You were actually very nervous before the show.
I was very nervous before the show. But I was shaking, to be honest with you. But saying that, after doing the show, you learn more, and it's like, what the hell has gone on? And you realise that even though you've been told about some stuff, there was still stuff that we didn't know. And it's like Andy Mercer, who is supposed to be our mediator, and John Blackburn was here from Mysteria Paranormal. They even said, how the hell can you be neutral? You know, I had trouble.
When you get any information like that, and we've got nothing on the contrary to it.
No, this is it.
Because we still haven't heard anything from the Bowens. And like we said, they are welcome to come on and give their side of the story.
Yeah. So,
but somehow I can't see that.
No. But it was a very interesting show. But as I say, if you're interested in watching Rip Off Britain, starts on the 15th of September at 9:15 in the morning. And basically, I think from what I've seen on BBC, it's not the first 3 shows. But it's on every morning from the 15th. What's he on about? Steve, is that a picture of me on your desk?
You mean that one? No, that's a picture of my Susie.
So, but yeah, it was an interesting show. Very highlighting, wasn't it, Steve?
It was. It wasn't the kind of stuff that I
Expected.
I wanted to learn about.
No.
Because obviously we want to know about the paranormal and how people are working within it. But
Yeah.
Unfortunately, every now and again we get a situation like this that has to be addressed. And despite a few people's worries that we shouldn't do it, it had to be done.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there
I
you
think
go,
it did.
all done. Hopefully, there's a good outcome from it all,
Yeah.
but probably not.
No, that's the sad thing, isn't it? So, you know.
Right. Our guest tonight.
Our guest tonight is Lyon Playfair,
Yes,
who was on a few weeks ago talking about twin therapy.
he was
We
indeed.
touched on the Enfield Poltergeist, and everybody wanted to hear about it and talk about it. So we've managed to get him back on again to talk about this fantastic, amazing story. And we'll be contacting him at 8:30. Maybe there's some questions you would like to know. So, but that wasn't nice thing. The Viscount's not that pretty.
It's not. He said my picture should be an image of him. I said he ain't that pretty.
So we're going to be asking him basically how he got into it, what he thought about the focus of the activity, and also asking him about the media attention that basically said, you know, the skeptic side of it and everything else.
Yeah.
We're going to also, we're going to ask him a few questions about this and find out a little bit more about it. I'll be honest with you, I am of the opinion that he wants to lay this to rest.
He does. He has agreed to talk to us about it, but last time he was on, he was very reluctant to do so. And to be honest, I can't blame him. He's into other things. He has done lots of other things since.
Yeah.
And he obviously would like them to be known as.
Yeah.
Instead of going back to the same thing all the time.
Yes.
But when you're known for doing something, it does tend to keep coming around.
Well, this is it.
We'll get it over and done with.
Yes.
Then we won't have to talk to him again about it. We'll find something else that he's into that you can talk to us about.
So, but
and I think it is our first poltergeist in the UK that was actually everybody heard about. I mean,
we'll have to ask.
I mean, there was obviously others that didn't get all the publicity and stuff.
Remember that question. We'll have to ask him.
I need the magnets.
So, just before we ring him up, just want to wish my son and his good wife a happy anniversary.
Oh, yes.
Their first anniversary.
Yes, they were off having a meal tonight.
Yes, so, which was very nice because when they had the reception last year after the wedding, they were also given a meal for their first anniversary. So it was very nice at the hotel, wasn't it? So, right. John thinks that the Ghost Watch was inspired by Enfield case. You're probably right there, John, to be honest with you. You're probably right there. So
yes, the thing with Sarah Green and that.
Right, let's get
that got everybody
Mr.
going,
Playfair on the line. And 2 seconds, see where I've gone. I've got lost. Bear with me.
That was indeed a brilliant show. There's uproar afterwards because so many people actually believed it.
I'm going to put you live on the show, okay?
Here comes Guy.
Good evening, can you hear me all right?
Just about, yes.
Right, okay. Just turn that round a bit.
Get it, yeah, if you can, to the receiver, it does help.
Yes, how's that?
Well, it's okay.
Okay. So, let's just Let's do it this way, I think. Right, okay. Mr Playfair, welcome back to the show. It's been great having you back on. Everybody was interested in the Enfield case, and I hope you don't mind talking to us about it.
Well, I'll try and think of something new to say about it if I can.
That's the thing, isn't it, really? We've just been saying that I think it's something that, you've basically done to death, isn't it, really?
Well, yes, and there's a TV serial coming up based on it.
Is there really?
Well, it hasn't been announced yet, actually, so I better not say too much, but it is said to be going to be announced this week.
Oh, right.
From Sky.
We'll have to look out for that.
So I'm sure they'll let you know about it, yeah.
Yeah. So, right, okay. Hopefully everyone can hear you okay. So, can you hear it okay, Steve?
Yeah, it's coming through.
Right.
Just keep it there.
Okay.
Just wait
Right,
for it.
okay. So, first of all, how did you get involved in the case? And can you give us a basic outline of what it was about?
Not in less than about 3 hours, but I'll try.
I can understand that.
Well, I got involved quite by accident. As I went along to the Society for Psychical Research, SPR, in August of 1977 for their monthly lecture, which happened to be about poltergeists.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat next to a fellow called Maurice Gross, whom I hardly knew. He was a new member, and I only met him a couple of times and just sort of said hello, and he said that he'd read one of my books and liked it, so I just said thank you, and that was that, really. And after the end of this talk about poltergeists by a librarian, actually, it was, who gave a very good talk about the sort of history of the subject and made it all sound rather academic and something that used to happen, but obviously it doesn't happen anymore. And then at question time at the end, Maurice jumped up and said he was investigating a case right now. And there was a kind of horrified gasp. And he said he'd like some help. And since I was sitting right in front of him, I couldn't escape. So I said rather sort of offhandedly, just let me know if you get desperate, because I didn't really want to. I had all sorts of other things to do. And I was also hoping to go on holiday, which I hadn't done for at least 2 years, because I've been writing a very long book, which had just come out, and I was due for a bit of a rest. And then what happened was that was on Thursday, and on Sunday lunchtime I was listening to the BBC's World at One, and who should pop up but Morris, broadcasting from Enfield, together with a BBC reporter, Rosalind Morris, who did a superb job, stayed up all night and then went straight into the studio and did a very, very concise piece on the whole case. And it sort of took off from there, and so I realized that this was a case that I just had to go and look at, and went along on the Monday and stayed there for 14 months.
14 months? God.
Yeah.
In the beginning, what kind of phenomena did you personally experience that convinced you something was definitely happening?
Well, as soon as I got through the door, it was the atmosphere. They were scared stiff. I mean, they were completely confused and didn't know what on earth to do. And they'd already appealed to the police and the social services and the church and the welfare and everything else. And finally, in desperation, they phoned the Daily Mirror, because that was their paper. And they weren't out for any money. They didn't ask for any, and they never got any. But they wanted help from somebody. And as luck would have it, the Daily Mirror's chief reporter was George Fallows, who was a very decent fellow and very concerned for the welfare of the family. And he said he'd call the SPR. That's how we got involved. It was entirely thanks to the Daily Mirror, and they deserve all credit for doing a very, very worthy act. Which today they wouldn't do that sort of thing now. I mean, journalism in the 70s was a lot more considerate and ethical than it is now. So we were lucky, and we were treated pretty well, fairly by the press on the whole. We didn't have any really bad times. So that's how it all began. And as I say, well, what convinced me was the fact that the family were all absolutely terrified. You know, they would sleep with the light on all night, which you don't normally do.
No.
And quite often they wouldn't even go into a room on their own during the day. And I heard one of the girls say to the other, you know, will you come in there with me? And they didn't want to be on their own at all. I mean, they really were absolutely terrified, and why the hell would anybody fake that?
Yeah, yeah. So, for you, what was the scariest thing that happened?
Well, quite a choice, really. It's hard to say. I don't think there was any one any worse than the others. There were just so many of them. I suppose the most impressive was really when people outside the house got involved, and the lollipop lady across the road saw Janet floating up and down through the window, and she must have been at least 3 feet in the air to be visible from the street level. And then, of course, this large cushion appeared on the roof in full view of the baker, who still hasn't got over it. Even today, he just won't talk about it. Well, today, we tried to get hold of him about 2 years ago, and he just wouldn't discuss it. It scared the hell out of him. You know, he's walking along the pavement directly towards the house, and nobody was opening windows or in the garden or anywhere near it, and suddenly this very large sofa cushion appears on the roof, just from one frame to the next, as it were. And that was done in public. All kinds of people saw that, but he was the only one who was prepared to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And luckily, we grabbed him pretty soon after the event, before he'd clammed up, which he now has. So it was things like that were pretty unusual and better witnessed than you normally get. Because this was in a fairly busy residential street, and there was lots of people. The house was right on the street front, and it wasn't isolated at all. It was semi-detached. They had next-door neighbours who were well aware of what was going on, and they could hear quite a lot of it. So it was well witnessed right from day one. Right.
Now, why do you think Janet was more affected more than her sister? Because I believe she was the focus of the activity.
Well, they both were. Janet more so, certainly. Yes. That we simply don't know. I mean, the poltergeists do appear to attach themselves to one single individual, which is very often a teenage girl or boy. They can be both, and sometimes to much older. I mean, we've had Maurice and I did a case where the only occupants were a young couple in their 30s, no children at all. Just husband and wife and a rather sort of moribund dog. So you don't have to have children, but they do seem to help. It seems to be something to do with available energy. I don't know. The teenagers certainly have more of that than most of us.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is a total mystery. We really don't know anything about poltergeists at all, and I don't try to pretend that I do.
No.
All I can tell you is how they behave.
This is it. Now, we've got a couple of questions in the chat room, and the Dave and Liz and the Viscount is similar questions, actually. What do you think when people claim that it was all fake? Other than why would anyone want to fake it back in those days? But the Viscount says many people say that the daughter was faking it. Example, whistling and barking noises coming from Janet's general direction.
Well, I'm afraid that won't do, because we actually had a professional speech therapist up there, and she heard this voice and said she never heard anything like it. And we also got a professor of phonetics from London University to lend us a laryngograph, which you clamp onto the neck and you record signals coming from the larynx. And this established beyond any doubt that the voice was not made by the normal vocal cords. Now, you can't do that, and it's what they use for sort of growly voices on radio commercials.
Yeah.
You know, talking about horror films and that kind of thing.
Mm.
Well, you can't keep that up for very long without getting one hell of a sore throat.
No.
And Janet could keep it up for literally for hours.
Really?
So that excuse, I'm sorry, that won't do. They've got to do better than that.
There was a researcher, Anita Gregory. She claimed that the uncle was told her that he thought Janet had taught herself to talk in a deep voice and loved to trick strangers.
Yes, Anita Gregory went there, I think, twice.
Yeah.
I went there about 125 times.
Yeah.
I think I'm in a better position to judge what went on there than she was.
I understand that.
And she seemed to be determined to debunk the thing before she even got there. So you get used to that sort of thing. It goes with the job. You know, it doesn't really bother me. I mean, she was in a very small minority of nitpickers. And I simply don't believe that the uncle, he was very supportive of Janet all the way through. And I don't think he would have accused her of anything. He certainly would have told me if he caught her cheating in any way. So I'm sorry, I reject that testimony completely.
Did they ever play any pranks?
Yes, they did. And we knew that, and he knew we knew, and we all knew. And I didn't make a big deal out of it at all, because it's their house, they can do what they like. It's not my job as an investigator to tell children how to behave in their own home, is it?
No, this is it.
And also for children to imitate what they see going on around them, that's how they learn. I mean, that's the basis of all education.
Mm.
And it's very, very common on poltergeist cases that once they've been going for a few weeks or longer, that the children think this is a sort of new game or whatever, and they join in. There's also evidence, which I've seen, where they can do kind of unconscious cheating, where something seems to get into them, and they do things without knowing why. I mean, I've had one very clear case of that. So this is not quite as simple as these so-called skeptics like to pretend.
Do you think it's possible that they're thinking about what they did fake is making them doubt what actually happened? Do you think that could be the possibility?
Well, what they did fake was so easy to discover. I mean, one lovely example, which I never forget, was when I got back from the pub where I'd been having my evening meal and found my tape recorder was missing.
Oh.
And the girl said, oh yeah, the ghost stole it or something. So I had a look around and I found it immediately in a cupboard. And they took on to turn it off. It was still recording.
Mm.
So they recorded the evidence themselves. You know, come on, let's put it in the cupboard and tell him the poltergeist stole it. And they really weren't very good at it. And after a while, I just sort of said, please don't play around with my tape recorder, because they were quite expensive in those days. And we never referred to it again. I mean, it was normal kind of 12-year-old behaviour.
It's nice to know that with all the fear that they were going through, they could still act like children, if you understand what I'm saying.
Well, we almost encouraged them in some ways. Yeah. I mean, we tried to defuse the situation right from the start and get rid of this sort of idea of demonic possession or terror or something. I just said, look, this is just a sort of, it's like a dose of the measles. It'll pass. It's a disease.
Yeah. And
it's not your fault. It just happened. It'll go away. And eventually, of course, it did. But it took much longer than normal.
There was an incident with marbles, I believe.
Several, yeah.
Could you say where the children were when this happened? I believe they fell from the ceiling or something, and toys, Lego or something.
Oh, we had Lego all over the place, and the unfortunate Daily Mirror photographer got whacked on the forehead very hard by a piece of Lego while he was actually taking a photo.
God.
So, I mean, who threw it? You know, nobody was throwing it in the photo. You could see exactly where all the children's hands were, and also you can't throw a piece of Lego hard enough to make a large bruise on the poor fellow's forehead. And I saw that day after it happened. It was a great big red blob in the middle of his forehead. Quite nasty, and if it had gone into his eye, that would have been the end of that one.
Can I ask, on a technical side, what equipment was used during the case? Oh,
lots of it. The Mirror photographer had all kinds of super computer-driven flash, which would fire 4 times a second. and could take little sort of sequences of moving film, which we got several of those, where you get, I think it's 6 actually, still photos taken at intervals of about I'm not sure exactly, but it's about a second or less. So you get a little brief moving clip, which is very, very important. We got quite a few of those, which are very good evidence of things moving without anybody anywhere near them. Several of those. And Maurice Gross had a very large reel-to-reel tape recorder. BBC reporter had a Ewer, which is absolutely the top of the range, you know, the one they use for outside broadcast. Perfect, wonderful quality, and very reliable. And of course, the first thing it did was not work. It jammed the tapes completely solid into the machine, and the technician at BBC had to take it apart. So he said he'd never seen that before, but then he hadn't put it out on a poltergeist case before, so that's what happens.
So, talking about the equipment and stuff, Dave and Liz, is it Dave and Liz? Sorry.
Yeah, Dave and Liz and Dave Lloyd.
Dave and Liz and Dave Lloyd would like to know that, could I ask you what you feel about the new technology being used on investigations today, such as spirit boxes, thermal imaging cameras, and full spectrum cameras?
Well, thermal imaging is interesting. You should say that, because it's just been done by an Australian colleague of mine, Paul Cropper, who is rapidly becoming one of the most diligent poltergeist chasers in the world. He's been to several other countries in search of them, and he's just written a whole book called Australian Poltergeist, which is quite an eye-opener, cases we never heard of from Australia. On the case from the 1990s, in a little place with the delightful name of Humpty Doo in the Northern Territories, the local TV people came in, and they did bring a thermal imaging camera, and they were able to film stones that had just been thrown, and find that there were no fingerprints on them, because the fingerprints show up very, very, very clearly on thermal imaging. And also the stones were uniformly hot all over, which can only be done by deliberately heating them, and even in fairly hot Australian climate, this was they weren't just warm, they were hot. And he filmed them repeatedly until the stone cooled down, and you could see the whole process from start to finish. I mean, that's very precise evidence. So that's been done, yes, and that certainly will be done again, at least in Australia, where they seem to have a more interest in these things than here.
If you could, would you go back with them, or if, would you have used today's technology if it was now?
Well, I wouldn't do a case like that again. I mean, one is enough. They are extremely exhausting.
I understand that, but I was just thinking, if it was today the case, would you use today's technology, like spirit boxes and stuff like that?
Not really. No, I mean we get a lot of reports in the SPR. We have a special committee for members of the public who send in accounts of all the things that happen to them, and we try to investigate as many as we can. And we have done. Colleagues of mine have investigated other poltergeists with various sort of bits and pieces and things. But I've always rather felt that good old-fashioned reporting with a tape recorder and a notebook is all you need. Nothing ever seems to be conclusive. I mean, you can prove some things you can. I mean, like we managed to get the rapping, thumping. Oops! Oh, sorry, my mousetrap just went off. It wasn't a poltergeist. I didn't like it. Where was I? We recorded a lot of these knocking, rapping sounds at Enfield, and I thought at the time it might be interesting to analyze them on a oscilloscope, which shows the what they call the acoustic signature.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do that at the time. We didn't know anybody who had the equipment. And luckily, one of our members, Barry Colvin, who has all the gear, he's got his own laboratory. And he did analyze about 12 recordings from different cases, including 3 or 4 of mine from Brazil, where I used to be. And he found in every single case the poltergeist raps do not look like normal ones at all. In fact, you cannot fake them without very elaborate methods, which the average 12-year-old girl would not have.
No.
And so that's more evidence. We do manage to get some proper evidence on these things. We don't just sort of fool around, you know. We do try and contribute to the sum of scientific knowledge about these things, and we have.
Yeah.
And apart from anything else, this technique is very useful for distinguishing genuine raps from fake ones. Because if somebody is faking one, we'll catch them easily, straight off.
Yeah, yeah. When Janet admitted to faking phenomena, this is from Dave and Liz, to see what if you and Morris could tell, what went through your mind, and what did you think what made her fake it?
I really didn't think about it. I mean, look, for heaven's sake, this was children behaving in their own house, and I don't expect them to sort of sit neatly in rows and reading their Bibles. I mean, there were a couple of very lively East End kids in their own house, and we were visitors, guests. I didn't tell them what to do. I mean, that's not right.
No.
I really didn't worry about it. I mean, they didn't do it very often, and they weren't very good at it. So, we just didn't make a big deal out of it at all.
No. Did you at any time think that they were at risk to their lives?
No, certainly not.
No, you didn't think that anyone was going to, poltergeist wasn't going to hurt them?
Well, Janet did have some very severe, what looked like trances. They were a bit concerning. I mean, because again, nobody would do anything about it. Her mother took her to the local doctor, and he just gave her a pill and sent her away. And they called in the child welfare psychiatrist, who thought the whole thing was a complete joke, and he just went away without doing anything at all. I think he should have been struck off for negligence. And they couldn't get anybody to give him any help at all. And we were there one night when she was having a very violent. It looked rather like an epileptic fit. I mean, there may be a distant connection between the two. And the emergency night doctor came along and gave her 10 cc of Valium, which we actually saw her take. And 2 hours later, she was flung out of bed, sound asleep. And again, how the hell do you fake that?
No, this is a...
No, she should have been absolutely knocked out after that dose. And yet, in fact, she did. She was still asleep when we found her across the room, absolutely out of it. You know. So that was a bit harrowing. But then, luckily, as luck would have it, or whatever, a couple of friends of mine from Brazil turned up, and they did a sort of spiritist routine and completely cured her straight off. Yeah. And that never happened again.
It was proved at the time that Janet had the ability to bend metal without touching them.
Yes, she did. And that was also recorded on a strain gauge, which you can't fake.
Yeah.
Well, you can, but not easily. And it was supervised by a student from Birkbeck College who knows how to operate these things. Yes, she did. I mean, we did that at the suggestion of Matthew Manning, who came along to sort of encourage the family and tell them that these things do get better. And he thought it was a good way of drawing off the energy, as it were, because that's what he did when he had a very severe poltergeist attack when he was at school. And he decided to do automatic writing and drawing as a way of, as he saw it, of sort of diverting the energy, and it certainly worked for him. And he stopped bending spoons, and he kept on doing paintings and so on, and then he became a healer, a very good one.
Mm.
He cured me of a very unpleasant problem.
So you don't think her metal bending was down to telekinesis then?
Well, you can call it what you like. I mean, the fact is that she did actually bend a teaspoon, which was wired up to a strain gauge.
Yeah.
And I can remember one day when we just found a bent spoon on the kitchen table, which everybody firmly denied having bent normally, and there was no reason why they should. And also found that the girls were extremely truthful. They never added to their stories at all. We would frequently question them again about something we asked them about several weeks previously, and they didn't change their stories ever. They were very sort of matter of fact, and they stuck to what they'd observed and didn't make things up. They didn't have to.
One question that's come up in the chat room is, were you contacted at all regarding the BBC's Ghost Watch episode that came on?
That, yes, I was. Typical sort of sneaky way of doing it. They told me they were doing a fictional drama about poltergeists, and they wanted technical advice as to how they worked and so on. As soon as I read the script, I realized that it was a complete rip-off of the book. So I sued them. Perhaps we needn't go into that now, but I won. I had a very nice holiday on the proceeds.
So you finally got your holiday?
I did, and it was I went to Denmark, had a lovely time.
Wow.
And, well, I mean, don't really want to go into the details.
To be honest with you, I'd heard so much about it, and I only really saw it last year, and I didn't think much of it. But that's by the by. Dave and Liz would like to know...
Dave Lloyd there.
Sorry, I was looking at something else. Dave and Liz would like to know what got you interested in the paranormal.
Oh, crumbs. Well, I'm not really interested in the paranormal because I don't like the word.
So what would you like to call it? Paranormal research or scientific research?
Well, I'm interested in anything that I can write about. I've written all sorts of stuff about subjects that are entirely unrelated to poltergeist. And more recently, haven't been in that sort of area at all.
No.
I've been a member of the Society for Psychical Research for 40 years and written quite a lot of stuff from them about all kinds of things. And I'm really interested in anything that hasn't been explained.
Yes.
I think you could call it, well, the word I prefer is anomaly.
Yeah.
Anomalies.
Is that why you joined the society?
I think I joined it when I was living in Brazil and working with a local group there. We were chasing after poltergeists where they had plenty of them going on, and I met some of these mysterious psychic surgeons who rip people open with their bare hands, and some interesting mediums, including Chico Xavier, extraordinary man who wrote about 450 books in automatic writing, and Brazil was where it was all happening in the 70s. It was quite exciting stuff. So when I came back to England, 1975, I thought I'd join the SPR and keep up to date with developments over here, which I have and still am.
So another question in the chat room is, what do you think of mediums?
Well, I mean, you say, well, what do I think of people? They're all different.
Right.
Some of them, I would say, were outstandingly good, and some of them are completely useless.
Yeah.
I haven't had much luck with them. I have met one or two very good ones. The best, I suppose, was the late Bertha Harris, who was quite well known in spiritualist circles, and she certainly was extremely accurate at clairvoyance. I mean, she could see things that she wasn't supposed to be able to see, and she seemed to have some ability for precognition as well. And she was fascinating, and has a very good reputation for absolute honesty and integrity, and once actually gave a sitting to Winston Churchill, which he wouldn't give me any details about, but I think that's generally established that she did that. And Matthew Manning is another medium I found very impressive. He became a healer and cured me of a slip disc problem, which I tried about 15 different therapies for, which hadn't had any effect. He cured it in one go. I mean, that was quite extraordinary. Yeah. It was witnessed by an orthopedic surgeon who said, "I just can't explain this. This is normally takes at least 2 years for the ulnar nerve to regrow. And mine took about half an hour, so there you are. And that was me, so I know it happened."
Yes, definitely.
And, well, I suppose Uri Geller can be considered as a medium. I certainly was impressed by him, and we're still very good friends after 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of any others offhand, but there have been, well, some of the Brazilian ones I met were very good. And on the whole, I tend to rather steer clear of them because they don't very often don't seem to lead anywhere. I mean, they come up with all kinds of wonderful remarks which you can't verify, and I don't really need them.
No.
I mean, I just put that rather low down my scale of priorities.
Right, so they don't use them at the society then?
We don't use them at all. I mean, people have, members have been along to check them out for themselves, and sometimes they witness things they find interesting, and sometimes they don't. So on the whole, it's not really an area that majority of SPR members concentrate on. There are so many others which are rather more amenable to investigation.
Going back to the Enfield case, Dave Lloyd would like to know wherever it went. Sorry, what was the overall conclusion of the case?
What you mean, the end or the explanation?
Both, really. What did you think of the end?
Well, the end was a colossal anticlimax.
Right.
Because you know, if this was the film, you'd expect sort of dramatic exorcisms and screams and yells and so on. And we had none of that. And all we had was this rather taciturn Dutch medium who turned up, a Dutch friend of mine, a journalist from Amsterdam, said he knew a man who said he could stop it. So he said, would I like him to bring him over? And I said, yes, we do want to stop it, please.
Yeah.
But are they? So he brought him over and he stopped it. I mean, that's it, really. He didn't apparently do anything much.
No.
He took the girls up the road and bought them an ice cream, which is nice.
Yeah.
And then he came back and he sat on his own in their bedroom alone. Well, they were waiting downstairs. And then he came downstairs and he just said, well, I think he's gone. And this may have been a brilliant piece of suggestion, a sort of hypnotic suggestion. But whatever it was, it worked. And from that day on, we had only one very brief outburst a couple of months later, which was only a couple of days and not very serious. And then after that, nothing. So it really is sort of fade out rather than climax.
Did I read somewhere there's a new study going on about it?
What about Enfield? Or?
Yes, about Enfield. Was there a new study going to be taken on it?
Not that I can think of. There was another study of us. I mean, we were investigating.
Right.
Maurice Gross and I. They had a special committee at the SPR.
Yeah.
Called EPIC, Enfield Poltergeist Investigation Committee, which was headed by lawyer Mary Rose Barrington, who's still with us, thankfully. And they questioned as many of the witnesses as they could. rather as if they'd been in court. I mean, rather more gently, but they questioned all the family and the chief investigators, and they concluded that the case was genuine. So that was useful.
Right, it was something to do with using some of the recordings from the case, apparently. So that's probably what you're talking about.
Well, we still got all the recordings, about 200 hours of it.
Yeah.
And they are in the process of being transcribed.
Okay.
Well, in fact, they have been transcribed.
Yeah.
500 pages of A4, single-spaced, which is quite a lot. And they will eventually, I hope, find their way onto a disc so that people can come and listen to them. They can't yet, but they will. But it's a massive job and quite expensive, but we are getting there.
Yeah. A couple of more questions on a different line of subject. People want to know what you think of the programs that are on TV, like The Ghost Adventurers, Haunted Collector, Most Haunted. What's the best TV programs show that you've seen, or do you not watch them?
Easy question. I don't have a TV set.
Oh, right.
So that's the answer to that one.
Okay.
I occasionally look at stuff on the iPlayer on the computer, but I'm not in the least interested in these sort of funny programs about ghosts. No, I've never seen any of them.
Right, okay. One thing I'd like to ask is, what have you learned about the poltergeist phenomena after all these years?
Ooh. That's a very tough one, really. I mean, I've learned how they behave and roughly what to expect. But as to the actual explanation of why they happen and why they're so rare, because they are extremely rare, it's impossible to say what percentage of people who suffer, but it's well under a fraction of 1%. I mean, it's far more likely to be struck by lightning than to have a poltergeist in your house.
Yeah.
It's doesn't seem to make any sense to me why it should be so rare. I mean, if it happens at all, it should happen quite often. But everything else seems to happen quite often and or quite regularly and under certain conditions. But we really can't say what the conditions are. I mean, the most cases in world literature, they tend to go for the unfortunate poorer classes rather than the rich ones.
Yeah.
Although we are actually checking out a report right now that there was something that sounds very much like a poltergeist in the former residence of no less than Margaret Thatcher.
Really?
In Belgravia somewhere, what's it called? Yeah. Chester Square.
Wow.
And we're still working on that one. That could be quite fun. It didn't last very long, and it was apparently only reported of one particular incident, but it was a very odd one.
Yeah.
And again, I think I'd like to wait until we have a bit more. We are trying to track down the original security guard who was there, who is apparently willing to talk, but we haven't yet found him. Right. So that should be quite fun.
Yeah. Is the Enfield the Enfield Poltergeist case, rather, was that the first recorded one in England or anywhere? Or
nothing like it. No, they've been recorded since the 8th century.
They have.
The earliest one that's been properly written up was from the German town of Bingen. A certain lady called, I can't remember her name, in Bingen who got poltergeisted, and some local, probably the local priest or somebody anyway, wrote a quite detailed account of the case. So they had her around for more than 1,000 years.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the church has always taken an interest because they were always assumed to be the work of the devil.
Yeah.
Thanks to Martin Luther, I think, who wrote about them quite often. He's one of the first to use the word poltergeist. He didn't coin it as is sometimes suggested. It was definitely in use in German in 15th century. And Luther, of course, wrote early in the 16th. And he referred to poltergeists as if he assumed everybody would know what they were. and also that they were the work of the devil. So that was the explanation, and stuck for ages, and it still is. I mean, we get reports from all over the world. In the SPR, a lot of them from Africa, where they've got all sorts of beliefs in spirits of various kinds, and they ascribe it to that. And it's different in every culture. They've all got their own traditional belief system, and yet the phenomena are always the same. It's extraordinary how similar they all are.
Was it but with the Enfield event, was it the only one that you was involved in that made the newspapers?
No, I've been involved in several. There was another very, very good one which we tried to do at the same time.
Yeah. In
Croydon, in a pub, which has changed its name now. It's the one in the main shopping mall in the centre. Mm-hmm. Used to be called the King's Cellars. I think it's now called Goodies Wine Bar. And that was a fascinating case. It was written up very well by Colin Wilson, mm-hmm. Who sadly died recently. And he went there and did a very, very good job. He turned out to be an extremely good investigator, and wrote it up. He wrote a whole chapter about it in his book on poltergeist, which I highly recommend.
Right, we'll have to look at that. Dave and Liz would like to know, have you ever experienced time displacement?
No.
Okay. Quick answer.
Nice easy one. Yeah.
Right, and over the years, obviously, you've been involved in a few things, but on the society side of it, what other things do you actually deal with? I know we've had you on for the twin therapy, but what other topics do you actually deal with? What other subjects?
Well, whatever comes along. I mean, to people, a very common appeal is somebody who's heard strange noises or something funny has happened in the house, and very often we find that the cause is absolutely normal. It's usually plumbing.
Yes.
Or else expansion joints in houses with timber frames. They can make a fantastic racket. I mean, I live in a very old house, and in the summer you'd think there was a poltergeist here the whole time. I mean, the middle of the night you can suddenly hear a tremendous great creak and thump, and that's caused by beams. And mice are fairly noisy around here as well, so there are all kinds of normal, but plumbing is the main one. I mean, plumbing can make a frightful racket. I mean, every time my neighbour upstairs has a shower, there's a outbreak of poltergeistery down here, and sort of rumbling and rattling and thumping, and I just don't even notice it anymore.
So, how are the family now, Mr. Playfair?
Well, the mother died a few years ago, sadly, and the two girls are both married and living a long way from Enfield. Yeah. And they don't want any more to do with the poltergeist at all. I'm still in touch with Janet, but I've agreed to not to let anybody have her details of where she is or get hold of her, so I'm afraid she's not available. Uh-huh. And no, I've completely broken off contact with everybody else except her.
Yeah, I understand that. Dave and Liz would like to know, during any of your investigations, have you ever believed that you may have taken anything home with you?
No. I think Maurice Gross may not agree. I think he did. Well, I don't think he took them home. I think they were there already. Yeah. He was a bit of a medium himself. All sorts of very odd things happened in his house, some of which I witnessed, and one or two of them really were extremely peculiar. I think I've mentioned most of them in my book, but he bore up very well. I don't think he was permanently affected in any way by what he went through. And I think maybe my experience in Brazil, where the local spiritists have ways of keeping themselves sort of immunized against malevolent attack, seems to work. And no, I was having a chat with my friendly local policeman at the time, I remember, and he'd just come back from covering an extremely violent riot in a picket line, and he was saying he'd be scared to go into a haunted house. I thought, bloody hell, I'd be terrified to do what he does.
Yeah, definitely.
Confront a mob of screaming strikers throwing rocks at him. He thought that was all part of the job, and I said, well, this is all part of mine. I mean, we have our own specialities. I couldn't do your job, and maybe you couldn't do mine. So
this is it.
That's how society works best, I think, if we all do our own thing as well as we can. Don't try to do everything.
This is it. Now, when we talk about poltergeist, they say that it means noisy ghost. Is this your theory, or do you think it's just normal spirit?
Well, it's correct
that
poltergeist is the German word.
Yeah. Is it evil?
No, poltern simply is the verb meaning to make a racket. And, for example, a German for a stag party is a Polterabend, which means an evening where you get together and have a good booze up and sing song and make a lot of racket and give the bridegroom a good send off. That's what poltern means, and poltergeist is simply a spirit who makes a lot of racket. And in the 16th century, they also used to call them Rumpelgeist, which I think is rather charming, which means much the same. Make a thorough nuisance of themselves and racket. They are really an extraordinary mystery. I mean, they've been around everywhere, all over the world for centuries. And yet we haven't got a faintest idea what they are, or we don't have any really reliable way of stopping them.
No.
There's a bit of first aid. If anybody's listening, whoever has trouble with the poltergeist, the immediate thing to do is to separate the family.
Yeah.
And send the children off to auntie or grandma or somebody, but just break the group up.
Yeah.
Because it tends to be a collective group thing. You don't get poltergeist if you live on your own.
Right. Okay.
Can't think of any offhand. So that's what to do in an emergency. But of course, it's only short term, because as soon as the family come back from grandma, it'll all start again. But it gives you certain relief at the time.
Okay. And one more question. What was the one investigation that you've been on that may have made you sit back and think, what am I doing?
I think that every day about everything. So
yeah.
I mean, that's sort of. Well, I mean, when I decided to be a freelance writer, I did whatever came along. I mean, initially, to start with, I wrote whatever I could sell.
God.
And I used to do very respectable articles about economics and balance of payment and oil exports and hydroelectric dams and all that sort of stuff. And then I discovered the weird side of Brazilian society with all these poltergeists, which I thought were a lot more fun than hydroelectric dams, and so they are.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've written about all sorts of other things, including more recently twins, which I found extremely interesting. And
yes, it was an interesting interview we had with you.
Well, that's going very well. We now have a PhD student at London University studying twin telepathy, which has never happened before anywhere.
Yeah.
That's a complete first, and that is thanks to my book, I'm glad to say. And that's really very gratifying, because I do like to do things properly and get useful evidence out of it. And the twin research is going very well, and it's we're working on ways of making it repeatable, which is not easy.
Yeah.
And finding out what kind of twin can do it, which not all of them can.
No.
But it's becoming quite clearer, the conditions and also the personalities involved. So we have made a lot of progress in a short time. And that really is, I find, the most interesting thing I've ever done, and certainly planning to do more.
Yeah, well done for that. So, well, I'd just like to say thank you for joining us again today, this evening, and talking about the Enfield Enfield Poltergeist, sorry. And it's been a fascinating subject. Everybody really does enjoy it, I must admit, because I suppose really and truthfully, it was a benchmark for some people, to try and find out more about the poltergeist.
Well, keep your ears out for an announcement from Sky. I don't know what they're going to do with the story. It might be complete rubbish, but at least it'll raise the. It's going to be called the Enfield something or other.
Yeah, I did see your interview with a poltergeist on YouTube this week, which was very interesting.
Oh yeah, well, this is a dramatic serial they're doing. I think it's in 3 parts or something. It's a sort of successor to Borgen or The Killing or something.
We'll have to have a look at that.
It's got a very classy Danish director coming over and all sorts of quite well-known actors, but I shouldn't give any details until Sky announces.
Yeah.
Which I'm assured they're about to do.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm meeting them on Tuesday where they'll tell me then. So you'll be hearing about it, I'm sure. They'll crank their publicity machine into action, and everybody probably in the country will know about it. So I should probably run away and hide, I think, but at least it's going to make the case revive interest and hopefully sell more books, which is what I do for a living, so that'd be nice.
Yes, definitely. Your last book that you wrote on this was back in April 2011, I believe.
Well, I had one reissued. The last new book was a little short one I did about Chico Xavier,
right?
The Brazilian medium, and I did another one about reincarnation for the Drew's Heritage Foundation, who commissioned it, and that went very well and did very nicely. And the twin book is now in its 3rd edition, and hopefully one day there'll be a new one.
Do you have any messages for the investigators out there in the mainstream?
Mainstream of what?
There's so many investigating organisations out there now. Do you have any messages for them? What would your best piece of advice you would give them?
Yeah, I'd say concentrate on the facts and getting them properly recorded. And don't worry too much about the explanations, because nobody else has got them.
No.
But what we need is better evidence.
Right.
And we've now got all these wonderful portable cameras and mobile phones and whatever, and the evidence is getting better.
Right.
And as the Australians demonstrated with that thermal camera, the modern technology can be extremely useful.
Yeah.
So just get all the evidence you can, and let us know at the SPR if you think it's a really good case that needs following up. And then write it up yourself and get it published somewhere.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, Mr Playfair. It's been an honour speaking to you again.
Well, you're welcome.
And I wish you all the best of luck in your future endeavours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And if you have any other topic that comes under this genre that you may think would be interesting in, we'd be loving to speak to you about it.
Well, there probably will be a lot more to say about twins in a few months' time, probably 6 months or so, when this PhD fellow has finished his work. He's doing quite a lot of experiments and research and so on. He might come up with something good.
Okay.
So that'll be probably what I'm doing next.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, sir. It's been a privilege.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you. Good night and God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, that was Lyon Playfair, and he kept to his word. He came and spoke to us about the Enfield Poltergeist. Didn't he, Steve?
He did indeed. It's
you can tell, though, can't you?
You can hear it in his voice. He's got so much stuff that I I think there's so much more on the actual case that we would like to get out there, with stuff being transcribed and obviously checked by the things that we can check things now. Like you said, some of the recordings have been done, and it's proved that it couldn't have happened from a human voice.
Well, this is it.
Which is good. Now, while that was going on, I picked up on something. It was reported today in the Mail Online.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, world exclusive. Jack the Ripper unmasked.
Oh yeah.
How amateur sleuth used DNA breakthrough to identify Britain's most notorious criminal 126 years after the string of terrible murders. DNA evidence on a shawl found at the Ripper murder scene nails the killer. By testing descendants of the victim and suspect identifications were made, Jack the Ripper has been identified as Polish-born Aaron Kosminski.
Ah, it's been confirmed, has it?
Yes, Kosminski was a suspect when the Ripper murders took place in 1888, and the hairdresser Kosminski lived in Whitechapel and was later put in an asylum. It's also that's the guy that Richard always said.
Yes.
Richard Jones always thought was the killer, doesn't it?
That's correct.
But according to the Mail Online today, it's been proved that through DNA evidence, although I would have thought it would have been completely what's the word?
Don't know.
No longer viable after 126 years.
Yeah, but I don't know. They do these cold cases, don't they? So maybe
I would actually put a link on, but me Bitly things decided not to work.
Oh right, okay.
So, otherwise it'd be a long link and it might not fit. It might not go anywhere. But if you go on the Mail Online, it was dated today's date, the 7th, and you'll see it.
And if you're interested, as I said, with Guy Lyon Playfair's book about the events that happened, the inside story, it says, of the Enfield Poltergeist, you can get it on Amazon. It's called This House is Haunted, and you can find out more about what happened and the goings on there and everything. I can understand how he feels about the fact that people look at it as fraud and all this, that and the other, but you know, if the guy's seen this sort of thing happen and he's got recordings and everything, there's actually I found a website with all the recordings on, to be honest with you, Steve.
Yeah, cool.
And the case notes. I'll see if I can find it while we're playing this advert.
I know one thing. What we saw there, I saw there the other day, is that they were saying the voice that was being done was actually being done by the folds above the vocal cords.
Really?
And this is apparently can't be done.
So I'll try and find that and then put it on there for everyone.
Although I do remember on a YouTube video that Janet was saying that the voices were actually coming from behind her. That they were looking at her as if it was her, and it was coming from behind her.
Well,
where you go, the advert.
I'll put the advert on while I'm having a look.
The Paranormal Intelligence Gathering Services Ghost Store is a one-stop shop for all of your ghost hunting gadgetry needs. Run by ghost hunters for ghost hunters, the shop is filled with all of the latest in investigation equipment, shipped in from all around the world, from high-quality digital dictaphones to EMF pumps, infrared illuminators to laser grid pens, CCTV equipment to data loggers. All of our equipment has already been imported, so you can buy it safe in the knowledge that there will be no hidden costs. And with our postage promise, you'll never pay more than the actual postage price. So visit www.the-pigs.co.uk/ghost store.
Yeah, that's for our friends down there in East Sussex, isn't it, Steve?
It is a very good group. I do like the way they do things.
Oh, I do, I must admit. Right, so I've just put the link on there, and looking at the website, it's haunted mansions around the world. Visit often if you dare, and it mentions the Enfield Poltergeist, and there's you can click here to start audio narrations. Get the word right. And somewhere on that website, there's also recordings. Let me see. Not sure where they are. Somewhere there I found them. There was recordings of voices and stuff like that, and audio bits, but not sure where they are at the moment. But I'm sure you'll find them somewhere. So have a look on there and see what you think. I'm sure it's that one.
Yeah.
It
Also,
looks like it.
JW sent me a link. There's a lady who actually called Angela Jackson. She went to spiritualists and she was told by her dad not to use the Ouija board.
Oh yeah.
Don't do it. She did. Neighbours and that, and it actually said "die, bitch."
I've heard that so many times.
But apparently, they said she was going to die. She was going to get killed by a hammer, and look, probably about 3 years later, I think it was, she was actually attacked by a guy with a claw hammer.
So interesting. Well, I've just put another link on there. It's actually the one where it says below are the audio tapes mentioned in the interview, interview 3, and there are 13 audio tapes. They've got 3 case studies as well. So if you're interested in that, you've got Maurice Gross's interview on there as well. So might be worth having a look if you want to find out a little bit more and see what you think, and have a listen to the tapes and be your own detective. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the events, get them out of the way.
Over to you.
We've got all the news right here. Don't go away.
Fed up of wading through the activities and events that other advertisers include? Find just what you're looking for at paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory. And here are the events for September that's advertised on paranormaleventsforyou.com. On the 13th of September, Burton Ghost Walks are conducting a 4-hour tour at Sinai House, Burton-on-Trent. Also on the 13th, UK Shadow Seekers are at Pennyland Hall, Wrexham. On the 14th, there's a psychic evening with Steve Holbrook at Walkeringham, Doncaster. On the 20th, Daniel MacDonald is conducting a psychic skills workshop and investigation practice at Fort Halstead, Chatham in Kent. On the 24th, there's a psychic supper at the BRSA Railway Club in Ashford in Kent with various readers. And on the 25th, Club Zero are doing their monthly meeting at the Ladybridge Club in Stockport. On the 26th, Charlton House, London, the Haunted Places Paranormal Investigations. On the 27th, Club Zero are conducting an investigation at Hat Green Nuclear Bunker. And finally, also on the 27th, Personal Paranormal are off to Middleton Hall, Tamworth. For more details on these and other events, visit paranormaleventsforyou.com. So check out the one-stop paranormal directory for more investigations and events, available now. Paranormaleventsforyou.com also offers banner advertising for only £10 per year. See our website for more details. Paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory. Well, if there's anything you want us to discuss on the show, then why not contact us at admin@ktpf.co.uk. And did I say that right?
Yeah, is your throat giving that on you?
Yeah. admin@ktpf.co.uk.
Yep.
And we will endeavour to find some information and talk about it and get you involved and see what your theories are and everything. So.
Okay. The David Liz says, have you heard the EVP from Leicester Paranormal about the ancient ramming?
No.
Well, they've also got an event this weekend.
Uh-huh.
They're going to the Barlow Institute at Edgeworth, and if anyone's out there that wants tickets, you can get them at www.hauntedworlds.co.uk. UK.
Funny enough, that's where we're going on Wednesday night.
And they're doing a buy one, get one free.
That's where we're going on Wednesday night.
And in the interest of keeping the paranormal, I will not say how much.
Yes. Remember, collaboration, not competition. If
Yes.
they want to find out what you're charging, then make sure you put a link on your advertisement. So, as I say, if you want us to talk about certain subjects, why don't you throw them at us, literally, and we'll see what we can find out for you.
Yes, we're still looking, aiming to get somebody on the Shadow People, aren't we?
We've got Rosemary coming on for that.
That Rosemary Gilly.
Rosemary Ellen Gilly. Yes. She's coming on to talk about Shadow People.
Yes, see,
Yep.
see, you asked us about Shadow People.
Yes.
And we've tried to find somebody.
So yes, we've got quite a few things happening soon.
Yeah, what is coming up?
Right. Well,
in the future weeks.
Future weeks. I'll tell you about next week in a moment. Future weeks. Steve Marrier's popping in on the 21st, and because we're going to be talking to a super soldier.
Yeah.
Not
looking forward to that one.
Are you not? I don't know, because... Go on.
Well, I am to a point, but it's kind of gone over there somewhere. I'm not sure where to start with it.
So, but it is a weird subject, I must admit. So let me just.
It's all a bit Universal Soldier, isn't it?
Yeah, this is it. You know, if you've ever seen them films, that's what it's all about. Let me just nip to my pictures in the KTPF thing. Let's have a look here. Where are we? It's all about conspiracy theories from fiction to reality. He tells us about genetically modified clones which are sent into combat by aliens for time travel ops and off-world ops. So, and he calls himself a MELAB,
and this is
which is a military.
Is to the government as well.
Oh, I can't remember what MELAB is. Sorry. Let me just remember. A military. No, it's not a microphone. It's a military abduction, apparently, and he says that it happens. Happened to his against his will, and there are other people like that.
Yeah, they're beginning to remember these things, aren't they? Things coming out, the memories are coming back.
Yeah, so
I'll let you answer the question if and Dave on this, because I don't know the answer.
No, I think I'm meeting a lady. So, what else we've got? Richard Hawkins is coming on the 28th.
Yes. Richard is into lots of little venues that he's taking care of, which you can book at reasonable prices. We're actually doing one of his. He's looking after.
He's going to be talking about the block.
The block, yes, and he has his own group called SPIT.
SPIT,
which stands for
Staffordshire Paranormal Investigating Team.
There we go.
We've got a few subjects, both ufology and Star Child update, because apparently there's an update on that.
Yep.
And Shadow People will be the 23rd of November. It had to be changed. So, because she's got other conferences and stuff coming up. But that's just a few of what's coming up in the near future. Next week, we have Adam Davis, and whether you call him an explorer, adventurer or cryptozoologist, there is no one alive today who has done more active fieldwork to prove the existence of yet to be discovered animals in remote and sometimes dangerous parts of the world.
Right.
So we're going to be talking about his latest
Is that the guy that our Simon went Sasquatch hunting with?
Yes.
Cool.
So we're going to talk to him about his latest expedition, find out what he found and what he didn't find, and as I say, we'll also be letting you know how we got on at Penny Lan next week, can't we, Steve?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we've never been there before.
We can give you the rough gist of it. So obviously we won't have everything in for 2 or 3 days afterwards.
No, but we can give you our report on what we thought of the place, can't we? So,
We can.
you know, some...
That cellar is weird.
What?
That cellar of ours that used to be used as a nightclub.
I know.
That's weird.
You go down there and it's got all it's got newspaper clippings stuck to the wall.
Yeah, well, actually, newspapers.
I know.
All different dates on them.
All different dates, but no, it's a really interesting place. And
if any of you guys want to go to Penland, please contact the lady.
If you go into the forum, if you become
she needs the support. Does she?
Yeah, if you become an affiliated member in the KTPF discussion area, you will have access of the location database. Okay, but you need to be a founder of a group that's got a URL. Okay, a website.
Yes, a website.
Okay, and if you want to be part of the locations database, there's loads of places in there, which also tells you about who to contact, whether a deposit is needed, etc., etc. And they're not in there as in it costs that much. They're in price ranges, so it will say under £500, between 500 and 1,000, etc. Locations that charge per head, locations with accommodation and things like that. So why don't you have a look? And if you want to just email me at admin@ktpf.co.uk, and I will give you access to that area.
Yeah, we've got to.
You can't see it if you're a normal registered guest.
No, it's not there.
Yeah.
We've got to get on the phone soon and start checking up on them, make sure they are still what they are, and make sure they are still going.
This is it.
Because obviously some of them have been in a long time, and if you know of any good places within the price range, let us know.
Yes, let us know.
So we can
add it to the database.
Send us something and we can stick it in the database.
So, but the location for Pennyland is in the database, so and who to contact.
Yes.
And it is quite a reasonable price.
Yes, and at the moment
nothing like Newsham, Dave.
No, definitely nothing like Newsham. She's in desperate need at the moment for the upkeep of the place, isn't she? She's in desperate need at the moment for the upkeep of the place.
Definitely.
They've been having a few problems with the building.
Yes.
So to speak.
Yep. And she'll go in her room and not bother you, so she leaves you to do what she does. So, as I say, it's, but Newsham's a nice place, but
expensive.
It is very expensive. And I wish they gave you the whole building.
And I wish they didn't count the hub as one of the areas that you can do.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, but as I say, he said he can sort her free security out, new locks and stuff. But as I say, it's there are some good places out there, and some new places, So as I say, it's the block is going to be a very interesting one. It's becoming really popular with people.
Yeah, that's really come through this year. We've got to go and see another couple
in Stoke.
down in Stoke on Tuesday.
So
find out about.
Yep. So basically,
it's starting to come through more and more now. So that should be interesting.
This is it. So
one of them's actually got, from what they tell us, there's about 18 buildings to investigate.
Oh yeah. So that should be good. But as I say, all these things will be in the database for you. So CCTV gear cheap. Got some new 1000 TVL cameras in. Who has?
They have. They're getting rid of the old stuff and they've got some new stuff in.
Hold on.
Well, if you only got 3 EVPs from Newsham, that's more than what we got.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. So, well, I would think that's about it for tonight, I'll be honest with you. Don't you?
Yes.
It's been quite an interesting show.
It's been a long couple of days.
Yes. And, no, through your company. Oh, right. So, basically, it has been a long couple of days. I went through a jug of sangria last night. Didn't I, Steve?
It was her birthday.
Yes. So.
Yeah. And before that, you were doing CPR.
And I was doing CPR because, as I say, we are now first aiders. Yippee!
But now your arm's ache.
I feel as though I've had CPR, I tell you. My chest aches. So, and my arm, this shoulder aches, so, but, I don't know. So, and if you feel like having a paranormal investigation down in South Wales, why don't you get hold of Craignos Castle? It looks fantastic.
It does look fantastic at all. You
So,
can,
or if you fancy just going on an investigation, why don't you...
you can either contact the castle, or I'm sure if you contact Paranormal World, who run the investigations there for the castle, they'll put you in the right place.
And remember, it's not just an investigation. It's a 3-course meal.
Yeah, it's a
chuck out for 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so you can have a bit of a kip.
As I say, bed, breakfast, and evening meal.
Yeah, so it's not too bad.
Sleep in a haunted bedroom.
Yeah, so it looks like we could be doing that next year. We put the feelers out.
Well,
We've had a few people say yes.
Well, as long as they've got electric in the room, which I'm sure they have, I'm going to take my laptop and pull it in, and I'm going to record straight on the laptop while I'm sleeping.
Oh, yeah.
And see if anything happens in the room while I'm asleep.
So, and as I say, it looks as though we could be doing that, because you've got to have a minimum of 10, haven't you, Steve?
Yes, you do.
So,
he's put the murder ripper one up.
Right.
He said he'd be get to get Andy back on and talk to that one about that one.
It could do. So we've got to get Andy back on soon.
Yes,
I don't know where he's been tonight.
Yeah, he hasn't been with us tonight, has he?
No. So, mind you, I think he's got a lot in his mind at the moment.
Yes.
He's got a lot to do.
That's a shame, because I'm sure he would have enjoyed tonight's subject as well.
Never mind. Well, anyway, so we're going to call it a night tonight.
We digress because we are waffling.
Yes. And don't forget, as I said before, if you want us to talk about any subject, then why don't you get in contact with us at admin at paranormal events. What am I? Admin at ktpf.co.uk, and we'll see what we can do. We can have a night just chatting between ourselves and talking about whatever subject you want to talk about.
And,
maybe investigation places.
And Dave, Liz, TrueTwit is a verification thing. It verifies that you're a proper person and not a robot.
Yes. Yes, I know that one.
Because apparently 2/3 of all Twitters are actually robots.
Apparently, yeah.
They're bots. They're not actually people.
But as I say, we'll be back next week. Same time, same place, 8 p.m. on www.ktpf.co.uk. So thank you for listening to the KTPF Community Show, and remember that we're recommended by the Phenomena magazine, the UK's leading online publication, and sponsored by
Craignos Castle,
South Wales.
I shall do the whole spiel because I like doing the whole spiel.
Go on then.
I like doing the whole spiel. Are you ready, Viscount?
Go on then.
The KTPF Community Talk Show is sponsored by Craignos Castle, South Wales, one of the most haunted castles in Wales. For more information on ghostly and ghastly events, including fright nights, all-night investigations, and hen parties, contact www.mosthauntedcastle.com. And those events will be hosted by Paranormal World.
Yes, most of them are anyway. So, as I say, so until next time, all that's left to say is to remember to keep the paranormal friendly. Good night, guys.
Have a good week.
This is where it's at.
To see in the night, to measure the spike, to see how cold it's been. I buy my kit so I won't forget the ghosties that I have seen. The Paranormal Intelligence Gathering Services Ghost Store. So visit www.the-pigs.co.uk/ghost store.